All right, so welcome everyone. I'm going to do a live stream today on using Studio One, and it's really a masterclass on mixing. So thank you for joining me. Just let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. At the end of the video, I will be going through those and just ask you, go over all of your questions. Also, let me know where you're from, what part of the world you are from watching this. It's always so cool to hear where everyone is from. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to do basically a mixing masterclass on Studio One. I'm going to show you my process for how I use it, for how I set everything up inside of the software. Also, at the end, I want to talk about my new course, Studio One Simplified, and I want to encourage you to leave a comment and just stay till the end because I have a special gift for you as a bonus for watching this masterclass. So let's just jump right in, okay? Basically, this is my process. It's about 5 steps for going into mixing in Studio One. The first step basically is track organization, okay? So if I close out this window, this is a song I have pulled up, and the first step I do is going through the tracks, okay? So there's probably about 30 tracks here, but you can only see really 10 over on this side. I'm going to show you what we're going to do and how to set that up. But let's give this song a quick listen from the beginning, and I'll just highlight certain sections of the song. It's kind of the intro. Here's the chorus. And then it goes back to the intro with some drums. Chorus again. Here's the bridge. Here's a guitar solo. Okay, so that's basically like the feel of the song, just to give you a quick overview of that. Okay, so track organization. The first step, you'll notice that the groups, I've grouped them together by color. So the vocals are yellow over here, bass is purple, and acoustic is light blue. Then we have the keys are green over here. And the way to do that, to select different colors, is you go over here on the left and you just click the color you want, and you can see that this is starting to change color like that. And one of the things I love about Studio One is that you can do this if you select everything that you want, you can do it all together. So it makes it super easy. Now for the guitars, they're in blue, and I've put them into a folder. So you can unclick the folder, unpack the folder, you can see all of the different guitar tracks in here. And then the drums are in red over here, so you can see all of those as well, like that. And if you want to just highlight all of these, you can click all of those and then just choose, a new color. Okay, so it makes it pretty easy. Whoops, I had the pianos also selected, so I don't want to do that. So let's just make sure we bring those back to green. All right. And by the way, let's say I wanted to put these piano tracks into a group, okay? So they're both selected. You right-click on it, and then you can just click Group Selected Tracks or Pack Folder, and that will create a new folder for those tracks like that. So really easy. And then you can just type a new name in like that. Just call those piano or like that. So now I have a folder of just piano tracks. So it makes it pretty easy to do that. Okay. Now, when you go to the mixing window, all of these are going to be color coded the same way. All right. So it just makes it super easy and just organized. So when you go to mix, everything is in the same color. You can easily identify the guitars, the piano track, the acoustics track, and what you're going to do from there. Okay. So that's really the first thing that I like to do, just to get everything organized, easy to work in. And then the second step is to go ahead and fix any mistakes. So fixing mistakes would be things like creating a fade out, which you can see if you open up. Oh, the guitars are the wrong color. Let's make those blue again. If you go into the drum tracks, you can see like I have fade outs here. So, I've faded out the tracks like that. Or maybe there's a mistake in the bass line or a mistake in one of the guitar tracks. You're going to want to go through and just select that part and edit that and fix that. Some of this I try to take care of in more of the editing stage, which comes before mixing. I like to do that a lot. But that is kind of, and then also in this editing stage is a lot of times when the client, if you're mixing for people, they're going to make suggestions for you, like what they want to have, specifically effects on certain section. They want to pull up the vocals here, pull down the vocals here. They want to do all these things. So if you are mixing professionally for other people, this is the stage in which editing will come in, and you want to fix all of your mistakes. If you do have to fix things, Studio One makes it really easy to do that. So let's just say that we wanted to go in here and edit this acoustic track. We could just double click on it like that, and all of these tools over here make it really easy. So if you wanted to cut something, you could use this tool and we could just cut that out. Or let's say we wanted to put a fade in on this section, you can just drag in the section, the little fade in portion of the track like that. And a lot of times what I'll do actually is I'll actually work on the volume level. So if something's really off volume wise, I'll actually take that section right here and you can drag it up or down and increase or decrease the volume. Okay. So this can ordinarily be worked out with a compressor or something like that, but you can just increase or decrease that just by dragging the top of a track like that. So it's super handy to do. Another thing that I'm not going to get into in this live stream is to talk about vocal tuning, but vocal tuning is normally something I do in the editing stage, but when you apply Melodyne to any of the vocal tracks and you tune them that way, it's super easy to do. So Studio One comes with Melodyne. If you're having the professional version of Studio One, if you right click on any track and you can click, where is it? Edit with Melodyne. That right here, yeah. Or just Command M, you can edit that track with Melodyne. But we're not going to, I've done other videos on that. We're not going to talk about that right now. So that's briefly on step 2, fixing any kind of mistakes in your mix, specifically with editing, okay? All right, so step number 3 is going to be where you're going to be spending a little bit more time, and that is with panning and setting your levels, okay? So back to the mixing window. By the way, it's a good idea to create shortcuts, I feel like, for a lot of these, so you can just go between really quickly back and forth between your mixing and editing windows with a click of a button. I've routed that to my quotation marks on my keyboard, but I think it defaults to like F1 or F2. You can do that as a command shortcut. All right, so now I'm in setting levels. So one of the first things I'll go through is just give it a listen through and see where I need to adjust the levels. You can see the faders down here and the panning across this section. So let's just give it a listen to start. So for this section, it sounds like the vocals could come up a little bit. That sounds a little bit better. So one thing that's kind of interesting, and this is going into arrangement, but in music, a lot of times what creates interest is to basically have every 4 measures something different happening, or introducing some new element, or even taking out an element. So if you hear the first 4 measures, we just have guitar. And then the next 4 measures, the vocals come in. Okay. The next 4 measures, we introduce the piano. And then the next 4 measures, you introduce the chorus, which is a different section. But the bass guitar and the acoustic comes in. Yeah, so I'm going to bring that vocal back down a little bit for that portion of the song. Quickly on panning, I have the acoustic panned opposite of the guitars slightly. So the acoustic is panned on the right, and then let's just solo out the acoustic and the piano. So if we were to go back to this section. So it just creates a little bit of a spread. If you're listening on a phone, you're not going to be able to hear this, but if you have monitors or earbuds, you can hear. If we were just make it extreme, that's a little bit too much, so I'm going to bring that back for the panning. By the way, when you're panning things, if I zoom in here, really on Studio One, it's really easy. You just take this, the little pan, and you can see I'm panning this left by 37%. This is pan to the right, so you're panning it opposite. You're always looking to seek balance, I think, with panning. So you don't want to have things panned too much to one side, all on the right, all on the left. So you can see just a quick overview of the electric guitars here. They're pretty much panned opposite, so there's balance. So there's 2 rhythm mics, okay? There's a ribbon and a 57. They're panned opposite. Okay, now you have a lead, which is a ribbon mic, and a 57. Those are panned kind of to the right, both of those, for the lead guitar 1, and then lead guitar 2 is panned to the left a little bit. So it's kind of creating this balance. I don't have all of the electrics going onto one side. Same thing with the drums. If we pull the drums over here, you can see that the overheads are panned hard right, hard left. The floor tom is panned kind of, this may be a little extreme, but all the way on the left. And then racks are panned slightly. And then the snare and the kick are straight up the center. So again, we'll isolate that and listen to the drums in a minute. But that's panning. I really feel like with panning, before you put in any effects into your song, it's really important to get that balance going. So if we get the drums back in, if we solo out the drums, you can see that they're, with the panning. Now, also, really quickly, I want to show you about, levels. So you can see that the drums up here they have a plus 2 dB here, input gain. So in Studio One, there's this really cool feature. If you go to the mixing window and then you click on the little gear icon over here and you go downwards, you can see input controls down here at the bottom. And what that does is it turns on these input controls. So if you have a track that's a little bit quiet, you can boost it up here before it even hits the meter here. So that's a really interesting and useful technology, a useful thing to use when you're working on the faders here, because what you don't want to do is boost the volume past 0 dB, because I think you can get a little extra noise in that process. So it's better to boost it here as it's coming in before you boost it up top. All right. So I went through already and I pulled the guitars down. They were a little bit too loud. If you hear just the guitars. So that's just the guitars. And of course we have the bass here. And I've pulled these down already a little bit. So that's it. That is really step 3, setting levels and panning. And you're going to want to spend quite a bit of time here because if you have everything balanced right, it's going to make everything easy. If you jump ahead and go into adding effects at this stage of the game, I feel like you're doing it a little bit too soon, perhaps. So you want to make sure that this is all. And then one quick thing that is a super easy trick that you can use to know if your mix sounds good or not is to go to the main outs over here, and you see this little stereo mono button. You click that and it instantly will turn your mix into a mono. I will place my trust in you. You are steady. So you can hear if your mix is in mono or stereo just by doing that little channel mode select. So all you got to do is that, because oftentimes you can hear problems in your mix when you're listening to it in mono if you have everything mixed in stereo, unbalanced things. So a lot of times this is the way people are going to be listening to music through their phones. Okay, so step number 4 is adding bus tracks. Okay, and finally adding effects. Okay, so you'll notice that as we're going through here, I really don't have any effects on anything except for the bass track, because it's just a standalone bass track. I just have a compressor and a Pro EQ here. All of the effects are built into this, the bus effects. Okay, so it just makes things super fast and super easy when you're mixing. So you can apply all of the effects onto one track. So the way to do that in Studio One is you highlight all of, let's say, the drum tracks, and then you right click on it and you go add bus for selected channels. Okay, so what it'll do is it will automatically route all of those bus tracks to a drum bus over here, and then you can go ahead and add all your effects into there. So I do that for the drums, I do that for the guitars, and for the vocals. So you can see over here, I have a vocal bus, I have a drum bus over here, and then a guitar bus. So at any point in the mix, you can just click on the drums or just guitar or vocals. This part of the song doesn't have vocals, but if we were to fast forward. You're not going anywhere. So you can listen to just by clicking here on these bus channels, okay? So let's show you what I have inside of the bus. We'll start first with the drums, okay? This is typically what I'll do, but every song is a little bit different. So the first thing I have on the drums is just a Pro EQ. And I didn't do too much, but you can see that I notched out this little area. You can see if you click on the little the little dot here, it'll turn on and off that notch. I think it was a little ringing from the cymbals that was coming through. That's why I notched that area out. And I just boosted the highs just a little bit for some of those upper end, for some of the cymbals over there. Next in the chain is a compressor. Now you can see the compressor is working a little bit because the reduction meter is coming through here. So just a quick explanation of compression. Basically, you have the threshold, the ratio. Okay, those are the first two of the major functions of a compressor. So the threshold is at what point do you want the compression to kick in. So I can pull the threshold down, and it's really going to compress it. Or I can bring it back up again. So I have it set to about -16 dB. So this is at what point, again, that when the signal hits the compressor, it's going to start compressing. Okay, so obviously if you have it set to a higher threshold, it's not going to be compressing as much. But if you lower the threshold, it's going to be, the compressor is going to be working harder. Now, once it hits that threshold, the ratio is how much over the compression, how much do you want to compress once it hits the threshold. So a 2-to-1 ratio is basically like 50% of the threshold gets compression on it. If you go to like a 10-to-1 ratio, that's like flat. So basically it's like a limiter at that point. Everything is going to get compressed. I like the music to breathe a little bit, so I don't apply that the ratio. I usually leave it about 2-to-1 or sometimes even higher. Sometimes like 1 to 1.5, something like that. But 2-to-1 is generally somewhere around where I do it. The attack, generally I'll do it pretty fast attack for drums. The release is a really important function for drums. Because of that kick drum, you don't want the kick drum to be releasing too quick. So I have it set to about 15 milliseconds or too long for that example. So we'll get into that another time. I've done other videos on that. But that's the basic function of a compressor on the drums. The next one is a fat channel, and it's another compression where I have just to give it a little bit of color. If I turn that off, let's go back to this. So the fat channel just gives it a little bit of color. I really like that. And the last up as I have is room reverb. If we listen to it without the reverb, it's really dry. And then back with the reverb again. So those are the things I have on the drum bus. Again, super cool because I only have to add that to the drum bus and not onto each individual track. I just love that feature. All right, guitar bus. Okay, so this is what I have in the guitars. We'll just sold this out. Okay, so first thing in the chain for the guitars is just to take out some of this lower end. Again, not that you would have that much, but it just helps to lower that end out. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments over here. Okay, so and just boosting the highs up a little bit. Again, this is going to be done to taste, whatever you feel like you like or what it needs for that particular instrument. Again, the compressor is going to be second. Now these aren't really hitting that hard. So if I wanted to lower that threshold again, You can really hear how it compresses that signal. The guitar already has a compressor on it, so the pedals, I have a compressor pedal going in, so it doesn't really have a lot of, it doesn't need that much, but this is just a little bit of a safety. The next is the room reverb, just a little bit. If I turn that off, you can really hear how dry that is now. And then back with it on. And then here's the decay. Finally is the analog delay. I love this. Just set really conservatively, so at 5%, and then eighth note triplets here. But here it is without it. So that is what I would put on the guitars. And then lastly is the vocal bus. Kind of similar is the Pro EQ, the fat channel, compressor, room reverb, and delay. So those are some similar things that I would put onto the vocals, okay? Let's give that a listen. So if we go over to the bridge section here.
In the end it will be clear you're not.
So that's no effects. Maybe we'll go to the chorus. Where is the chorus?
You are steady.
All right, so that's no effects.
Never change. A hope that will always stay the same. You're unshakable.
So you can really hear what the effects sound like when you're soloing out a vocal because there's no instruments in here. Now that can totally change once you put the instruments back in, because you'll hear, they won't be sitting by themselves. But really quick, just to go through here. So here is Pro EQ. Again, taking out that low end. A tube compressor. This is part of the fat channel. Really quickly, if you click on this drop down on Studio One in the fat channel, you can select between all of these different compressors. So really cool. Then I have a digital compressor here, the Studio One stock compressor, just to make sure, again, probably don't even need it. So if we go back.
And never change. I hope that
yeah, you can see it. Oh.
That will always stay the
yeah, it hit there a little bit, but again, that's just to make sure that nothing goes over. And then room reverb, and then analog delay. Okay.
You're unshakable.
It sounds like a little bit too much delay, but then once you get it back in with the music. Yeah, it just helps the vocals sit right in there in the mix if you're doing it that way. Okay, step number 5 is the last stage, and depending on what you're doing for mastering, can affect this. Okay, so basically, one of the first things I'll do is add over here on the top right here this mix effects. Okay, which is really cool. They have like these board simulators. So you can see here, this is the CTC1. And it immediately will change the sound of the whole mix like it's going through a board. So let's just listen to the tube. Wow, do you hear that? That's so cool. So immediately this one is a lot brighter. The tube, a little warmer, a little darker. Actually, if I had to do it, I have the classic on here. I kind of like the tube better, so I'm going to leave the tube on there. But you can go through and all these mix effects, they have Alpine Desk, Brit Console. I like the CTC one personally, but that's what I would use there. You can add that onto any of a bus channel, this little mix effects. Okay, next is the limiter. Now this is the thing that you want to only add on if you're not going to be sending this off to mastering, because the limiter is basically like the master. Okay, if you have the limiter on the main outs, that's like your master. Okay, so what I usually do is set the threshold in the ceiling to -1. So that ensures that the whole thing is not going to be clipping, is not going to be going above that 1 decibel. Anytime it goes above 1 dB, you get clipping. It sounds really bad. So we don't want to do that. All right. So I'll set that to -1. And by the way, if you want to put a level meter up just to see like what the levels are. So 0, this is 0 right here.
I will place my trust in you. You are steady and
so it got up to about -2.6 dB. Let's see. Let's check the bridge here where it gets loud. So it peaked out just about at -1 dB. So you can see that the limiter is doing its job. I don't know if the limiter wasn't on there. Let's try that. Let's see what happens. Let's turn off the limiter. Oh, well, on the limiter itself, I actually have boosted the decibels, so that's not going to be an accurate representation. So back to the limiter. The last thing I forgot to tell you about is the gain. Okay, so I have this set to 6 dB here, so plus 6 dB. That's boosting everything up 6 decibels. So the whole mix is getting boosted up 6 dB. All right. If I brought that down to 0, you can hear what a difference that is. And maybe I could play with this, if you wanted to put it up to 7 dB. So it still didn't really do too much. Let's try 10 or 12. Let's see what happens there. Yeah, you can see here now the limiter is really working. So it reduced it by -5 decibels. So we know at the loudest point of the song, what's 5 minus 12? 8. So let's just go back to 7 and see what happens. Yeah, so it's still reducing it by -1.5. I think that's why I had it around 6 dB. Let's check that again. Yeah, so now it didn't reduce it at all. Depends on what you want to do. If you want to take your loudest part of the song and bring it down a little bit and then allow everything else to come up, that's what this gain knob function is going to do. Okay. I don't like limiting things too much because I feel like it takes the life out of the songs. They're in the mastering process. There's other ways of bringing up quiet sections without bringing them up and squashing the louder parts. So that's sort of a judgment call that you're going to have to make. And then the last stage is just to export your song. Okay. So if you go up to the top of Studio One, you go to export mixdown or Command E. It'll bring you through here. I usually like to do between loop, and that will, like this, for example, this song is 2 minutes and 45 seconds. I'll leave it to 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. And then here, which is really cool, is you can adjust the loudness to a song. If you're doing YouTube or Spotify, I think there's a Spotify. There used to be anyway. Anyway, Spotify's the same as YouTube. It's negative 14 LUFS. So that's the volume metric they use. Max true peak is -1. We've already set that to it, so it should affect anything. And then you would export your song. So that is it. That is basically an overview of how I approach mixing in Studio One. And the same system I use for all of my mixes, depending on what style it is. I generally go through this same process, and what it does is it really helps me to save a lot of time and just focus on the music, because I think that's what you would like as well. So leave a question if you guys have any questions or comments, but I do want to transition and talk a little bit about my brand new Studio One course. It's called Studio One Simplified, and what it does is it really teaches you exactly how to do this in every single part of the process. So today we've just talked about mixing, but the course focuses on every single aspect of Studio One, from setting everything up to recording your first tracks, to mixing your song, to mastering your song. It lays it all out. And really the benefit of the course is that it helps you to just master the software, so you don't have to worry about the software, how to do everything, where everything is located. It really helps you to focus on the music, save time, and just make great music. So what I want to do is basically show you a little bit inside the course and just kind of show you what it looks like. I know a lot of people that, so let's see here. I know a lot of people that are either looking to get started using Studio One, or they are looking to switch to Studio One from another platform. This course will help both of those people. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day who was totally frustrated with Logic and just kind of fed up with it, and he's ready to switch. So he's coming over to Studio One and kind of getting used to it. And then I want to show you a little bit about why I switched to Studio One in a second. But this is basically what the course looks like. Inside of the course, there's different modules. Module 1 is all about the setup, how to install it, how to get started, all the big basic features of the different windows, keyboard shortcuts. At the end of each module, there's a basic overview, like a PDF file you can download. Then there's the first module 2 is recording in virtual instruments. Okay, so everything about MIDI, how to program your drums, the arranger track, the chord track, everything to set everything up for using MIDI and virtual instruments. Super powerful. Studio One makes it really easy to do. I'm kind of hooked on it. So anyway, module 3 is recording audio instruments, everything about each individual instrument. So in the course, I go through and build a song from scratch, from the beginning, using each instrument. So I have the guitar track, the electric guitar, acoustic guitar, even Ampire. So Ampire is Studio One's virtual instrument, virtual amp, sorry. Bass guitar, we record bass, acoustic drums. We've already done the MIDI drums with programming. We record vocals. I show you how to tune vocals. Then we go through the mixing setup. This is module 1, fixing mistakes, volume levels, adding effects. I talk about parallel compression and side chaining inside the course, exporting. So each video is done into a lot more detail individually, so you can easily go back. If you're looking to just learn about, recording acoustic drums, you can just go and watch that video that day. And then exporting. And then there's also bonuses that are inside this course. There's 3 different bonuses. Bonus number 1 is how to master in Studio One. So it's a really, really powerful software that they have. They basically have a separate page built into Studio One that goes over mastering, okay? And next is the bonus is how to create a lead sheet in Studio One. So if you're in a band, you want to create a lead sheet. I show you exactly how to do that. And then finally, and by the way, you can print off your lead sheet and just send it to everyone in your band. is the track stem. So everything in the course, the song that I used and recorded, is inside the track stems. Okay, so there's about 35 different tracks there. I think maybe, I don't know, somewhere around there. But you can have those and just practice mixing, practice mastering using those track stems. So how to get started, how to use this course, okay? Basically, you'll want to go to the link, which I realize is not in the description of this video, but I will put the link in here. Basically, the link is millermusic.podia.com /SOS. So you're going to want to go to that link. I will put that link in the description as well as in the comment section, so you can go ahead and go purchase that. So basically, you're going to there's two different options for purchasing the course, okay? There's a silver and a gold option, okay? So the silver option is basically Studio One Simplified plus your mastering, lead sheet, and stems bonus sections. And then the gold option for $247 is Studio One Simplified plus the mastering, lead sheet bonus, course stems bonus, and then as well as the individual mixes. Individual mix critique, sorry. So basically, the difference in the gold option is if you send me your song that you've made in the course, I will give you a personal mix critique on that. I'll give you my opinion on what I think might need tweaking. I'll give you a detailed revision analysis of that, and then I'll also allow you to do a second revision. So if you have a revision that you'd like to do, I will send that as well. And I am going to make sure that you guys have that link there. So if you have questions, I'm going to hang out for a minute and just give you I'll just answer any questions you have. I don't see any questions at the moment, but I really think that the course will help you. I'm confident that it will help you to save time, make great music, and really just have fun producing music inside of Studio One. So, like I said, I'll hang out here for a minute, but I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope to see you inside of my new course, and just thanks for watching. I just really appreciate you and, watching me in these videos. I hope they bring you a lot of success, and I'll see you soon.